This movie, Hannibal Rising, is the prequel of Red Dragon. Hannibal Lecter was born on January 20th, 1933, in Castle Lecter, an imposing ancestral estate on the outskirts of Vilnius, Lithuania. His father, Count Lecter, was an aristocrat of significant wealth and lineage, directly descended from Hannibal the Grim, a 15th-century warlord known for his ruthlessness in the Baltic region. The choice of Hannibal's name was deliberate on the part of author Thomas Harris, who drew inspiration from Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general celebrated for his military genius and unconventional tactics. Barca's campaigns during the Punic Wars against Rome remain some of the most studied in military history. He was known for precision planning, sudden ambushes, and the use of misinformation to disorient opponents. Like Lecter, he preferred intellect over brute force, outmaneuvering stronger enemies through strategy. Historical accounts also suggest that the hardships of those wars, especially during retreats, sometimes led to cannibalism among soldiers. Barca himself endured deep personal trauma when the Romans sent him the severed head of his younger brother, an act meant to weaken his resolve, but which instead strengthened it. The parallels to Lecter's fictional life are clear. Both men's defining traits were sharpened by loss, betrayal, and violence. Hannibal Lecter's early childhood was marked by privilege. The Lecter family estate was surrounded by forests, gardens, and outbuildings, offering the young boy freedom to explore. He was educated at home in multiple languages, Lithuanian, German, and English by the age of 6, later adding French and Japanese. His upbringing was steeped in the arts, history, and fine etiquette. Most importantly, he developed a deep, protective attachment to his younger sister, Misha, born in 1939. Hannibal often led her through the castle grounds, pointing out plants and animals, and telling her stories from books he had read. The security of this world collapsed in 1941 when Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, advancing into Lithuania. Fearing the violence to come, Count Lecter moved his family and a few trusted retainers to a secluded lodge deep in the woods. There they managed to survive for several winters on wild game and whatever supplies they had carried with them. For a time, this refuge kept the war at bay. In 1944, when Hannibal was 11, Soviet forces reached the area. One winter day, a Soviet tank crew stopped at the lodge to request water. Within minutes, German aircraft attacked, strafing and bombing the site. Hannibal watched from inside as his parents were killed in the exchange. The loss left the children vulnerable. Not long after, a band of opportunistic looters led by Nazi collaborator Vladis Grudas discovered the lodge. They took control of it, eating through the family's remaining provisions. When hunger reached desperation, they turned to the unthinkable. Misha was killed, cooked, and served to the surviving occupants. Hannibal, chained and helpless, was forced to eat what remained of his sister. The combination of grief, helplessness, and revulsion became the central trauma of his life. A later Soviet bombardment drove the men away. Hannibal escaped and was found by soldiers, who returned him to Castle Lecter, now converted into a grim orphanage for war survivors. The shock of what had happened left him mute for years. Even without speech, his intelligence was obvious, and he sometimes retaliated with calculated cruelty when bullied. Yet he also displayed acts of quiet kindness toward younger children, revealing the contradictory impulses that would define him. At 13, Hannibal was claimed by his uncle Robert Lecter and brought to France. After Robert's death, he lived with Lady Murasake, the widow of his uncle, who introduced him to Japanese culture, painting, literature, and martial arts. She became a stabilizing influence. However, this period of calm ended when a local butcher, Paul Mawman, made a vulgar remark about her. Hannibal attacked him in public, but did not kill him then. Later, he lured Mawman into a private encounter, murdered him with Lady Murasake's katana, and cooked part of his face. It was his first intentional act of cannibalism, combining personal revenge with culinary curiosity. French police Inspector Pascal Popple suspected Hannibal, but could not secure proof. Hannibal soon moved to Paris, entering medical school at a notably young age. His work included preparing cadavers for anatomy classes, giving him precise knowledge of human physiology. When he uncovered the identities of Misha's killers, he returned to the ruined lodge, found physical evidence including their dog tags, and set out to eliminate them one by one. Each killing was deliberate, and in every case he ate part of the victim. When he rescued Lady Murasaka from Grudas, she saw the depth of his violence and left him. Hannibal next went to Montreal to finish his vengeance before relocating to Baltimore for an internship at Johns Hopkins Medical Center. He built a reputation as a brilliant psychiatrist, becoming a fixture in high society. His dinners were admired for their refinement, though guests unknowingly ate dishes prepared from human flesh. In the 1970s, he committed the murders that earned him the title the Chesapeake Ripper. The victims, 9 killed and 3 injured, were often selected in groups of 3. His final victim in that spree, flutist Benjamin Raspail, was killed because Lecter disliked his playing. Portions of Raspail were served at a dinner party. FBI profiler Will Graham, initially seeking Lecter's help on another case, discovered evidence in Hannibal's office linking him to the murders. Hannibal attacked Graham, but was wounded and captured. Declared insane, he was sentenced to 9 life terms in the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane, under Dr. Frederick Chilton's management. While in custody, he once assaulted a nurse, dislocating her jaw and swallowing her tongue, all without his heart rate rising above 85 beats per minute. Years later, FBI trainee Clarice Starling was sent to interview him about serial killer Buffalo Bill. Hannibal agreed to exchange insights for personal information from her past. When Buffalo Bill kidnapped a U.S. senator's daughter, Lecter offered a false lead to secure a transfer, then escaped by killing 2 guards, disguising himself with one of their faces, and leaving in an ambulance. He later resurfaced in Florence under the alias Dr. Fell, serving as a museum curator. Italian detective Rinaldo Pezzi identified him, but was killed trying to capture him for Mason Verger, Lecter's only surviving victim, who had been manipulated years earlier into self-mutilation. Returning to the United States, Hannibal killed Verger by feeding him to his own boars and rescued Clarice from Verger's associates. In the novel's ending, Lecter persuaded Clarice to adopt the identity of Misha, and the two disappeared together. Across his life, Hannibal Lecter combined intelligence, cultural sophistication, and remorseless violence. His trajectory reflected not just inherent cruelty, but also a long chain of loss and revenge. As W.H. Auden wrote, "Those to whom evil is done do evil in return," a line that could serve as a concise summary of his path. And movie concludes.